at least to go over this stuff.
Okay. Dave, you said you're recording?
I am recording.
Perfect. So can you call the meeting to order? The Economic Development Authority for Monday, October 5th, 2020. Roll call. Michael Piat.
Here.
Alder Johnson. Coming soon. Mohammed Rage excused. John Calaworks excused. Glenn Sherman excused. Tara Yang. Tara, sorry.
It's okay. It's Tara, but I'm here.
Perfect. All right, then we can go to
Chair Pam, was
Yep.
Mohammed didn't call in though, right? At this
Correct.
point, we still may have Mohammed coming in.
Potentially. So then we'll go to item C, approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the October 5th, 2020 meeting of the Economic Development Authority. Do I have a motion?
I motion that.
Motion by Tara. Any second?
Second.
Second by Mike Piat. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll go to item D, number 1, approval of minutes. Approval of the November 11th, 2019 meeting of the Economic Development Authority. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alder Johnson. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second by Tara. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, D2, approval of the minutes from the March 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Economic Development Authority. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mike Piat. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to agenda item E, regular business. Consideration with possible action on a request by GB Real Estate Investments LLC to obtain a planning option of 416 North Monroe Avenue, tax parcel 11-92. So, do I need to read that small subsection right away, or?
No,
Okay.
nope, just in case. My screen.
Okay, and then I'll just remind everyone, when we're not talking, we'll mute, and then just so we don't have any background.
So, are you all looking at map? Yes? I see.
Yes.
Heads wagging.
Yes.
Good. Okay, great. All right. So most of you are still pretty new members of the EDA. So if you're not aware, one of the EDA's responsibilities is to help oversee the sale of city-owned properties. The RDA, the Redevelopment Authority, is the entity we typically acquiring and selling RDA-owned properties for economic development purposes. Sometimes, depending on how we acquire properties, it's actually the city, not the RDA, that owns the property. And this is one of those cases where we have a city-owned property that we're considering a potential future sale of. So you are the body that actually will consider that. And so here we are looking at a city-owned property at about 416, 418 North Monroe Avenue, really pretty much the southeast corner of Monroe and Union Street. This is a parking lot that the city currently leases out. We acquired this property in 2013. And have basically been using it for leased parking pretty much ever since then. today we're considering a planning option of this property. The developer, Garrett Bader, is on the call, by the way. What he's looking for essentially is a 9-month planning option. So he wants to consider a potential redevelopment and purchase of this property for us to consider at a later date. It'd be a 9-month planning option with 2 possible 6-month extensions. So he'll be using that time to consider a potential redevelopment and a possible proposal to purchase. So right now, all we're considering is that planning option. Hopefully a few months down the road, we'll come back and actually discuss a potential sale and redevelopment opportunity here. That's kind of the short explanation of what we're doing here. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if it's appropriate, we can open the floor and turn it over to Garrett for any questions you might have. Staff is recommending approval of this planning option for the record. Are there any questions?
Motion to open the floor.
I have a motion to open the floor. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Second by Tara. And all those in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries to open the floor. Do we have anyone, questions, or who would like to speak?
I had a question. Has there been any other offers for this area, or what time that we had anything planned for that area other than just renting it out?
No, so we are not actually actively seeking.
Mike, excuse me, Mike, can I ask you to mute yourself, please? For some reason, we've got a lot of feedback on your, there you go, perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so this is a property that we are not actively advertising. We acquired it in 2013, really for blight elimination purposes. It was purchased with parking utility dollars at the time, and so they used it for parking for the interim, with the hope that one day we would eventually redevelop this. But there's not an immediate plan for redevelopment. Usually we go out for RFP when we are looking to redevelop a parcel that we own, but we didn't do that in this case. In this particular case, we were approached by a developer.
You may recall this was the old body shop for all of you who were around for a while ago.
And did the body shop ended up closing?
They did. They actually approached the city. They said we want to sell it, and they actually gave us the first offer to purchase it. So back then, because we knew it'd be an opportunity to redevelop that corner at some point.
And what's the price that we would be selling this parcel at?
That's something we would probably discuss at a future date. That's not something we've really considered. I can say that invested just shy of $200,000 to acquire and demolish the building and improve it with a new lot, a parking lot. So that's how much we've invested so far. But selling, the sale price is something we haven't discussed quite yet.
At some point, the developer would come back to us with a plan of action for that site. And by the way, I should introduce myself. I didn't do that at the top of the meeting. So my name is Cheryl Renier-Wig. I'm the Assistant Development Director for the department. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Director Vonk, Kevin Vonk, he took on a new job in August. So I'm serving as the interim director until we fill that position. So that's who I am.
All right, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all. But I think at this point, we work with a planning option, which gives the developer the opportunity to come back with a package of some kind, depending on what kind of development they plan to put on there, what the needs are for the project, those types of things. So we kind of leave that open until we know what the total package is going to look like.
Sounds good.
can you help orient me? So this is Main and Monroe. So is this where Camera Corner is? Just
Kitty corner. It's kitty corner. So right across the street is is the high rise, 400 Monroe Plaza, the high rise building on the
Right.
corner of Main and Monroe. This is right across the street from it. So if you're looking on the map, on the lower section is Boat Art. So there's like Jill's. It's right on the corner there. If that helps you.
is there
Kitty
is
corner
there
to the
a
site is
building?
Camera Corner.
Isn't
Not
there
on
like
this
another
parcel.
Camera Corner building there?
Yes,
Not
I
on
think
this-
you're correct. There's
They're on
a where the mouse is over. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was envisioning the correct corner.
Yep, that's not their primary building that most people are familiar with, but I believe they do own that one, yes.
Garrett, was there anything you wanted to add to this, Garrett?
I'd be happy to talk if it's my turn.
The floor is open.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to hear this. So, as Cheryl mentioned, for those who are longtime residents, yes, this was the site of the former body shop. The idea here is that what has largely constrained development on this corner for years was not only that use for a long time, but also the billboards that are there right on the hard corner, which really prohibit the proper. So last Wednesday, as part of another acquisition, I purchased that little postage stamp right on the corner. So I now am the proud owner of that billboard property. So in looking at that, I approached the city earlier this year to see, okay, could we acquire the land around it and actually try to do a proper development there for the first time? So I think that's possible. Admittedly, in most cases, when I approach a city, I already have an idea of pretty much what I want to do. Here, honestly, I don't. It's limited amounts of land and some competing interests right next door to it. So this will allow the time to see what exactly can materialize on that property, and quite frankly, what we can fit there with very limited amount of land available. That includes working with some of the adjacent owners, some of whom have already been identified here. So that'll be part of my next steps. Tied in with this also is hopefully a broader plan that can relocate those billboards in a more aesthetic and site appropriate fashion. So that'll be handled separately and concurrently in this process. I think we can do something pretty special with those and kind of nice. So hopefully when this is done, not only do we have the right type of development plan for this site, but a relocation of the billboards and a number of nicer sites in the immediate area that will all accomplish.
This same proposal will be going to the redevelopment authority next week for the small parcel you see that the RDA owns.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bader?
Well, I'm just excited that there's some possibility in that block. That'll be exciting. Cause development.
On my end, I wasn't able to understand. Did anyone hear?
What Mike
I'm
just
sorry,
said?
Mike. It was all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just repeat. I said for Ryan, I'm just excited that there's a possibility of development in that area of the city, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how that possibly evolves.
I think you're, Mike, did you say you're excited about the possibility of what could happen on this corner?
Yeah. Either your mic is up too loud or
Sounds
you're
like your
talking too close to the
It's
speaker.
really high. You speak. There are no other questions. Chair, you may want to ask for a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Any final questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Moved by Alder Johnson, a second.
I second that.
Second by Tara. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I think we lost you, Pam.
Thanks. Sorry. I think I swiped too many times. So does anyone want to make a motion on the agenda item?
Chair,
Yes.
normally I'd be happy to make a motion. However, I do need to abstain from this vote. So whoever's take those, if they could reflect an abstention straight across the board, regardless of what the motion is.
Okay.
And in the spirit of public disclosure, I need to abstain because Mr. Bader is a member of my executive committee who oversees my compensation.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Dave Buck.
Can I make a motion as chair?
Well, with Brian's extension, you're only going to have 3, so we don't have Mohammed.
The point of clarification, Dave, and if somebody abstains, can that individual's presence still contribute to quorum? I'm not sure how the legal interpretation of that apply.
That was going to be my question to you, Alder Johnson.
So maybe if I could make a recommendation, again, regardless of what the motion is, I would obviously be recorded as an abstention, and then maybe we could check with legal after the meeting to determine if we can still advance that onto full council.
Right. If this committee decides to go forward with this proposal, let's not waste having to have another meeting, I guess, if it all works out. I agree with you on that.
Right. I believe it's still a positive recommendation. You do have a quorum, and you have a majority of the quorum, assuming they have majority votes in the affirmative.
So is there a motion to approve a planning option with GB Real Estate Investments LLC for the property located at 4 Signal Avenue, parcel 11-92?
I saw that.
Moved by Mike. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Tara. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Alder Johnson is abstaining. The motion carries if his presence here counts towards quorum.
Correct.
Correct.
All right, so now we go to agenda item F, informational. Number 1, director's report.
Well, and there's going to be some other informational things here, so I just wanted to give you an update that we have gone through round 1 of interviews for the director position, which is good. We're going to send a couple of candidates forward to the mayor for a second step, then, which will include a larger, probably more people interviewing, a presentation by the applicant. So hopefully we can have the director position filled by the end of the year is the goal. So that's my report, and then I'll let Dave and Matt bring you up to speed on the other stuff.
Thank you for the update.
Dave and Matt, that would be a cue, or do you want, or anything else to add for directors? Or you just want to move on with the agenda?
Nope. I was thinking of just going on with the
Good
agenda.
up, table.
Right, number 2, Brownfield program update.
Yep. Okay, let me share my screen again. All right. Hopefully you're looking at a PowerPoint. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so our standard Brownfields update. Okay, so you should all be aware at this point that we have multiple grants with the EPA for our Brownfields program. Our oldest grants from fiscal year 17 is 100% expended. We spent $300,000. We just wrapped this up here in these past few months, actually. We spent down our last 600 bucks. So with that $300,000, we assessed 14 properties throughout the city, shown on the map, and 9 of which have confirmed redevelopment anticipated, which is expected to leverage $68.3 million. So this is what the EPA would consider a very successful grant. We put their money to great work assessing brownfield properties and getting them redeveloped. So moving on to our fiscal year 19 assessment grant. These are the properties that we're looking at so far. We received another $300,000 from EPA. So far, we've only spent down about $65,000 of that, or about 22% of our budget. We've assessed 4 sites so far. These include the former Associated Bank lot, which is the one over here on Monroe. We've got our 4th Street properties down here on the south side of, just south of Broadway and Mason. And then just a little bit east of that, we have 1719 and 1723 South Broadway. And then the former Badger Sheet Metal property. I'll delve into each of those properties here in a moment. One thing I also wanted to update you on is, so with this assessment grant, we are going to be doing a brownfield inventory. So we set some funds aside to do what's essentially kind of a deeper dive into an area of our community. We're doing a focus on the South Broadway corridor, right in here where I'm circling, to kind of do not quite a phase 1 on all of those properties. You know, this particular area of our downtown, we have spent a lot of resources in trying to facilitate redevelopment with the shipyard and adjacent parcels. So we thought it was worthwhile to do a brownfield inventory of this whole area. We're going to look at each specific parcel within this target area, get a better understanding of the previous uses, the history of each of these sites, and the anticipated contamination. And basically, we'll take that inventory and we'll use that information to contact those property owners to let them know that we have resources available to them to get their properties cleaned up and assessed to better identify what contamination exists and facilitate redevelopment. So that effort is underway. So looking at each of those properties that we are currently doing phase 1 and phase 2s on, like I mentioned, the Associated Bank parking lot on Monroe. I mentioned at our last meeting, we have an active development proposal we're considering for this. We're currently in talks with Gorman and Company on developing a $24 million mixed-use development, which would include hopefully a 24,000 square foot grocery store. And we've got 70 affordable apartments and 10 townhomes. That project is moving along. We hope to have a development agreement being considered in the next month or 2. So moving on. So these are those 2 properties, the 4th Street properties and the 719, 723 South Broadway. These properties are owned by the RDA. Within the past few years, for potential redevelopment opportunities, we want to get a better understanding of those contaminants that we believe are there and get a plan in place to get those sites redeveloped and cleaned up. And then the Badger Sheet Metal site. We've already done a lot of work on this site. We are currently working with EPA on a brownfield land use reuse plan. They've actually just recently granted us a $60,000 technical assistance grant to consider this area of our downtown for brownfield redevelopment. So what we're doing with our assessment grant dollars right now is we're actually doing a geotech study to get a better understanding of the soils on that site and identify issues with redevelopment. So that's currently underway. So the brownfield inventory that I mentioned previously and that reuse study that we're working with EPA on, this is that target area that is the focus of those efforts. Basically the South Broadway corridor between Howard Street and Monroe, just west of the shipyard site. You'll see all the pink X's are sites where we already used our assessment grants to look into those sites. So just about everything within the shipyard area down here, we've already taken a good look at. So this is currently underway. I'm going really fast here. Please feel free to jump in if anyone has any questions. If not, I'll continue along. Quick update on the shipyard site. So we've received about $1.5 million in brownfield cleanup grants from EPA and WEDC. We have been doing a lot of work on the site in this past summer. If you've been paying close attention, we've been putting a lot of new fill onto the site to cap it. So far, we've spent about a little more than $1 million on remediation to cap that site, bring it out of the floodplain, and remediate contamination. So that's very much underway. Hopefully, the fun parts, the riverfront amenities, those will be shortly following, hopefully in the next construction season. But right now, it's kind of the boring work, just moving fill. It's boring, but it's really important and it's quite expensive. So we're very fortunate to have EPA and WDC assistance to help us cover those costs. The other big news that I have to share with you all is this past summer, the city of Green Bay was awarded an additional $800,000 from EPA to create a new revolving loan fund. This is a program that we have tried to secure at least twice since I've been here, and we've never been able to receive it up until just this past year. So we're really excited to have secured these $800,000. With this, we'll be creating a brand new revolving loan fund where we, as an entity, can loan out dollars to developer property owners to actually remediate their properties. A lot of the resources we have had for many years have only funded assessment, so funded the testing of the soils, the research on the history of the properties, but we've never had funds really at our own to fund the cleanup. So this will allow us to provide funds to developers in our community to get the properties cleaned up at a low or no interest rate. So $722,000 of those dollars is actually going to be budgeted towards loans. Smaller amounts, about $77,000 is what we're budgeting towards grants. We would hope to provide some grants to developers, probably smaller developers that don't have as many resources at their disposal. But the vast majority we hope to loan out so that it can revolve through and this can be a sustainable funding source. So we can continue to provide these funds to developers for years and years to come. So we're just made aware that we received these funds a few months ago. We got to work right away with preparing an RFP for consulting. We need to hire a consultant to assist us with some of the technical requirements of managing this kind of a program. So we put the RFP together and released it just the other day. This body will come back in November and actually select the final consultant. And at that meeting, we'll also be considering our policies and procedures for this new program that we're creating. So there's a lot of work yet to be done. We're just kind of getting started. But we'll be looking to each of you to help us really craft this new program. So looking forward to your input on this.
Congratulations on getting that. That's exciting.
Thank you. That's my presentation for today. If you've got any questions, happy to answer.
Any questions for Matt?
No questions, but certainly I was excited and glad now to try to start that program. Nice call, man.
Thank you.
So we can move on to a 3 commercial market study update.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is Dave Buck. I don't have a big PowerPoint or anything, but I think we have a couple new members. Lise Tara is new, I think, since prior. So a couple of years ago, the city's comprehensive plan shows the I-43 Business Center extending to the east and a little bit to the north, and that's our 20-year growth plan. About 2 years ago, we came to the realization, well, we knew it already, but that the city no longer had any property for sale in the I-43 Business Park. We do, however, get a lot of inquiries on availability of property or expansion area. So about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we decided to start looking at potential expansion of I-43 Business Center, and that would be expanding to the east. So as part of that, the first thing we did is we did a land use analysis. We did a wetland study, which we contracted out and had reported to the EDA to find out what areas are really usable or buildable. And we brought that back to the EDA, I believe it was probably March. At that time when we talked with the EDA, there were 2 kind of outstanding questions they had for staff. One was, are the property owners interested in selling? Was the first question. And the second, would the market support an expansion of that size, of whatever size, because we didn't have a particular size, but would the market support that? So since that time, staff has contacted all of the individual property owners. There was a little over 50 of them, some very large tracts of land, farm fields, all the way down to some very small single-family lots. And a vast majority are willing to sell almost immediately. Obviously, we don't know the price points. There were several that are looking to sell in 2 to 5 years, and very few that are not interested in selling at all. So we started doing that, and at the same time, we contracted with NAI Pfefferly, which is a real estate brokerage firm within the greater Green Bay area, Appleton. They're a larger firm. And in July, we signed a professional service agreement with them to perform a market study. And that would be a commercial and industrial market study for the city of Green Bay and our surrounding communities. So De Pere, Howard, Bellevue, Alloway. And kind of get a feel of what are the real estate inventories, the real estate needs, and the trends from a less of a planning firm and more of a brokerage firm. So kind of get a little different take on that. So we signed a professional service with them in July of this year, and it has a completion date of end of October. So I assume we'd be bringing that report to you in November, or if it's not ready by November, December. However, right now, so part of that market study was a business survey. And right now it's a very strange time, obviously with COVID. there's some strange things going on with the market. So this business survey was really an add-on that was designed to solicit information almost really about COVID, as well as just plans for businesses expansion or retraction. And Matt is going to kind of bring it up right now. So this is the survey itself. Oop. It was the survey. There we go. So this is what you'd find on the website, and I will email a copy of this out to everybody on the commission. But it kind of talks about basically the reason to have the survey, and again, a big emphasis on COVID-19 and operational plans related to that. And if you just kind of scroll down, we'll just grab a couple of the questions. So, like the first question, how many full-time employees do you have? What type of real estate does your organization currently utilize in the Green Bay area? How much space do you utilize? And as you continue down, you'll see these questions kind of go a little bit more, I don't want to say intrusive, but a little more detailed as you go down. So how many properties do you own? Do you lease some? Do you own some? And then it kind of gets into starts to get into the COVID. What was your capacity prior to COVID? Are you content with your space? Are you looking to expand? Are you looking to reduce? What is the time frame associated with that? And I'll kind of just go down a little bit more here. And so these are kind of the big ones starting at 12. Has COVID discouraged your organization from expanding? Does it change your outlook for real estate in the next 2 years? Is your organization planning to reduce its office workforce due to COVID? So you hear a lot of people saying, oh yeah, offices, everybody's going to be working remote. There are studies also saying, no, people will be coming back to the office model. So we're kind of going right down to the users themselves and kind of asking, and then just allowing them to provide any additional comments. So this business survey is really going to be a supplement to the market study. And obviously, some of it is going to be more qualitative than quantitative, people's feelings on COVID and expansion. But to get that from the private market, mixed with the regular quantitative data, land sales, land availability, by use, kind of by location, although we're doing a greater Green Bay area, as I had mentioned. But so, again, that survey is supposed to be finished October 12th is when it's going to close. And it was released on September 30th, so just about 2 weeks. Those comments will come back. Pfefferly will correlate them, include them in with their market study, and get that to us to get to you. So with that information, so in November or December, it'll be a little more detailed, kind of a larger project on this I-43 expansion. We'll talk about the areas that staff is recommending, who's willing to sell and at what times, and what the market study kind of depicts for uses. And then also we'll tell you a little bit more about some of the utilities that are also being extended out into that area. That as well was a little bit of impetus for us to look at I-43's expansion. Sanitary sewer is making its way out east. So that opens up a lot of those farm fields, current agricultural lands for a little more intense development. And so we're looking at, our business center has been incredibly successful, and we're looking to maybe try to recreate that with an expansion. So you can wait for November or December and you'll get a huge update. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot them over and I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you for the update. Does anyone have questions? If not, number 4 is the date of the next meeting, November 2nd, 2020. Anything else before we adjourn?
I have
Chair?
something here. I actually talked to Attorney Chavez, City Attorney Chavez, about our meeting, and she said that we're perfectly fine. She said as long as you have that quorum, that majority to start the meeting, and you have a majority then that votes later on, she said that's fine to send that along to council, so we're okay. with our vote tonight.
Wonderful.
Chair?
Good
I was-
deal, thanks.
I was just going to add to that too, that essentially what it does, it has the net effect of a no vote. So your majority, still, I mean, in our case, 4 people, majority would be 3. So as long as you still have 3 people voting affirmative, then it can move on, which we did, so.
Yep.
Anything else?
Move to adjourn?
I second that.
Aye.
I think Pam's having some issues.
Sorry, it kicked me out. I don't know why. I missed something.
There was a motion to adjourn by Johnson and a second by Yang.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We're adjourned. Now I can hop off.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, guys.
Go
Thank you.
Packers.
Thank you.